Hey guys, back with another video. Today I want to do a little bit of an introduction to investing in psychedelics. Now, psychedelics refers to compounds that basically have an effect on people where some people could call it hallucinations. These compounds include LSD and psilocybin being probably the most commonly talked about psychedelics. But there's many more. Some are natural, like psilocybin, and some are synthetic, like LSD. And there are many anecdotes that these compounds have therapeutic effects. And there was actually many studies done a long time ago in the 60s during the counterculture movement that found that these compounds can be helpful. So I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to investing in these compounds, how you can do it. Now, there are actually a lot of public companies available to investors to invest in around psychedelics. However, especially in today's economic environment where there's a lot of uncertainty and it's difficult to get funding, I think most of these investments are not appropriate for beginners. I think it's going to be a major challenge for all of these companies, even the biggest ones, to be prudent with their cash burn so that they have a large enough runway until they get a drug approved by the FDA, or if they are not a drug company, because some of these companies are more focused on building therapeutic environments where people can do these psychedelics, these legal psychedelics, such as Field Trip, where they're just building I don't know the right term, but more or less like hospitals around the world where people can come and have these experiences legally, with doctors and therapists involved, and and receive these treatments. But ultimately I think the best thing for beginners that I am personally doing, even as someone who's been in the space for a while, since the first public company went public, which was Mind Medicine. I just own the top 2 companies, and I think that's what is the safest route. And again, this is not financial advice, but this is just an introduction and educational for what is out there, what opportunities are out there for people looking to get into the psychedelic space for investing. So the 2 biggest companies are Compass Pathways, which is actually the second largest by market cap, and the other one is Atai Life Sciences, which is the largest psychedelics company by market cap. Now, these are my only 2 holdings for psychedelics, and that is, again, as I said earlier, because of the cash burn that these companies, psychedelic companies, inevitably have to go through, and also the dilution that they inevitably have to go through in order to raise more cash. Now, these 2 companies appear to be relatively well capitalized to at least sustain them for another 2 to 3 years, it would appear. Now, both of these companies are drug development companies. Compass Pathways, however, is much more focused of a drug development company. They are focused really on one compound, and that is their formulation of psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. Now, they are arguably the closest of any public company to receiving FDA approval on their compound. They don't give very, very specific deadlines for when they believe it's going to be approved, but I'd say my base case is 2025, 2026. Now, I'm not the biggest expert ever in this space, but actually, I think there is a YouTube channel that is probably my favorite in terms of psychedelics, and that is Brom, B-R-O-M. So I would recommend, if you want to look further into this, check out his channel. He has a lot of good videos. He also has a lot of good short clips. If you look up his short clips, there's some really good information there as well. But, so, yes, Compass Pathways, probably 2025, 2026. So by then, they may need to raise more cash. It may be close to where they need more cash. And Atai Life Sciences is a similar situation, but they are doing a wide array of different compounds that they are looking to get approved by the FDA, some of which aren't even psychedelic. They also own a large percent of Compass Pathways. I forget the exact percent, but I believe it's over 20% of Compass Pathways. So, yeah, Atai has a much more diversified approach. Lots of compounds, but of course this means that their cash burn is even higher than Compass Pathways, who already has a pretty high cash burn. And they recently came out and said that they believe their runway is until 2025. Now, I believe they are likely to have drugs approved by then. They may not be some of their psychedelic drugs, but they just have a huge pipeline. So, it's more difficult to be an expert on Atai as it is with Compass, since Compass is so focused on psilocybin, and there's lots of different information out there about psilocybin and lots of different studies you can look at. They recently completed one of their phase 2 studies on psilocybin, which looked quite favorable. There's many studies showing that psilocybin may be better than the current standard of care, which is SSRIs for the most part. Things like Prozac. Many studies do show that psilocybin is more effective than these standard of care models. So I'm personally bullish on the space, but again, the cash burn is the main concern. It is very expensive for these companies to run these trials, and it takes a long time for these drugs to be approved. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart. I personally have maybe 2% to 4% of my portfolio in psychedelic companies, which I think is relatively high for something so speculative, but I think it is the future of psychedelics, but it's still very risky. So I guess that wraps it up for this video as an introduction to investing in psychedelics. Actually, let me add, there are ETFs, which I think would be the second thing to look to in terms of safer bets. You know, it's more diversified, which is nice. But again, I think companies other than Compass Pathways and Atai just have major finance issues. It's going to be difficult for them to not need to raise a lot more money and dilute shareholders. I don't see a reality where they don't have to do that. So that's why my strategy is just Compass Pathways and Atai Life Sciences. There are some interesting smaller companies, but again, the cash burn is just why I don't hold them. So that does it for this introduction to investing in psychedelics. If you like the video, leave a like, subscribe. See you next video.